Madison here for ZKU. Today we have two of our really cool ambassador animals. Over here we have Pippin, who is a lesser Madagascar hedgehog Tenrec, and Dill Prickle, who is a four-toed hedgehog. Now these guys are really cool animals. They're very similar looking, and while this one does have the word hedgehog in his name, he actually isn't related to a hedgehog at all. So we're going to kind of talk about the differences and similarities between Tenrecs and hedgehogs. Now Pippin here is about 2.5 years old. And then Dill over here, he's about 2 years old. So as you can see, the size difference is pretty significant. Hedgehogs are about twice the size of Tenrecs. Dill here is a little bit younger and he's a lot bigger. However, they are both insectivores, so they enjoy finding things like worms and grubs, maybe like crickets and different types of bugs. So I put some worms inside of their little exercise bins here, and you're going to kind of see them rooting around looking for different worms to eat. Now, Pippin, being a Tenrec, is really interesting. Again, they have the word hedgehog in their name. Lesser Madagascar hedgehog Tenrec, a long word or phrase, but they are actually more closely related to elephants than they are this hedgehog here. So that's pretty incredible. These guys are found on the island of Madagascar. There are other species of Tenrecs. There's about 34 different species, either found on Madagascar or the coast of Africa. So the hedgehogs here, this one in particular, these guys can be found out in Africa, but there are different species in Asia and Europe as well. So they're a little more, scattered around the world than humans are. Now, Pippin, right now, as you can see, he's eating what we call a super worm. So he's kind of chowing down using those teeth. And those teeth are really incredible. They're very sharp. So Tenrecs, while they have those spines for defense, just like a hedgehog does, it's really not their primary defense. It's that mouth, those teeth. They're not afraid to come out and bite a predator if they're coming after them. And they have very strong teeth. Now, let's say a predator was going to bite down on Pippin here. He can kind of roll up a little bit and kind of make his spine stand up a little. And that's going to hurt that predator's mouth. So hopefully that predator will leave them alone. Now, in comparison to the hedgehog, if you look at his spines over here, they're very long, very sharp. They're a little more shy and a lot more defensive. So they actually have a special muscle in their stomach. You can kind of think of it like a string on a hoodie where they can pull themselves together into a tight ball. That ball cannot be opened by predators. If they bite on it, it's really painful. So it's a really great defense. There are some specialized predators that can eat them, but for most predators, it's very difficult. So you can kind of see that Tenrecs are a little more bold, where hedgehogs might be a little bit more shy. Now, here goes Pippin exploring a little bit. What's really cool about these guys is they both have very long noses that are help them root around. They have great sense of smell, not the best eyesight. Both of them are nocturnal, so they're going to be up during the night. Now, the hedgehog is going to be found on the ground, in burrows, things like that. Where the Tenrec, it's kind of interesting, you may not think about it, is partially arboreal, meaning that they will actually climb trees, live in tree hollows, and they have what I would describe more like hands, as opposed to a hedgehog has more like paws. So they will actually grasp onto different things and hold on, and they're really good climbers. Now, they both have excellent sense of hearing. So right now, as you can see, Pippin's looking for food. Dill might be a little full here, so he's just hanging out. Again, with these guys, those spines are very important for defense. Typically, when we handle them, we actually wear gloves, not because they're mean or anything, just because they're a little pokey and we want to protect ourselves and them. Now, Pippin here, he's exploring back here. I do have a worm I can offer him. See if he'll take it and that piece of my eat. There it is. He's coming. See how fast he is. Right there. There we go. He's got to sniff it out. He's very ferocious. Now, both of these animals actually came from other AZA-accredited zoos. Tenrecs are actually part of a really cool breeding program called a species survival plan. Because they do face issues out in the wild, zoos want to make sure that they have a healthy population of them. That way, if it happen to them in the wild, we would still have genetic diverse animals that could maybe in the future be introduced into the wild. Now, the hedgehog here, at this point, these types of hedgehogs are pretty commonly found in the pet trade. I don't really think that this particular fortunate hedgehog would survive in the wild anymore. They've kind of been over time, bred in the pet trade. So they're not as close to their wild relatives as maybe this Tenrec is. So they are a little bit different. Their instincts are a little bit different, and they kind of rely on different things. Dill, do you want to wax mom too? They said He's a little bit shy, so we like to keep things nice and easy with him. It's okay, buddy. So you kind of see my hand may have startled him a little bit, so he did put his head down and hiss. It's a really common hedgehog defense. They, again, don't have the best vision, so if you hear something coming, it's just best practice to always curl up. Usually once he realizes it's us, he gets pretty comfortable and he starts eating it. What's also kind of interesting is if you've ever had a hedgehog, you know that sometimes they require baths because they can get a little dirty. So they will get a water bath and you can bathe hedgehogs. However, Tenrecs actually will take, it's okay, I got you, superworm. They'll take a dust bath. So it's really cool. They'll actually take sand and kind of rub it all over their body. It helps clean them, gets off like dry skin and stuff like that. So it's kind of another way that they're different, you know, they want to breathe differently. And as you can tell, their environments are a little bit different as well. This hedgehog here is pretty comfortable on like aspen bedding. Sometimes fleece is fine for them. Where the Tenrecs, again, being a little more wild, they prefer this kind of more natural environment, just like thrive like that. And if you guys have any questions about them, I'll be okay to answer them.
We don't currently have any questions, but one that is commonly asked is,
can they shoot their quills? That is a very common question we get. They actually cannot. I would be a little startled to be this close to them if they could. It's a pretty common misconception also with porcupines as well. They cannot shoot their quills. What they, their quills are just modified hairs. They feel like they're shooting a hair off their or something like that. Oh, but you want more works? More works, please. So what's really interesting also about Tenrecs is they'll go through what's called a torpor, which is like a light hibernation. So they'll typically go through that through October to about February and March. So when we care for them, we actually will kind of lower the temperature of their enclosure to mimic this because it's a wild process and it's something we want them to go through. So they'll go through this torpor and then around February, March, they'll start being more active, start eating a little bit more, and they'll come out. And that's actually their breeding season as well. Once these guys go through their first torpor, they're considered mature, and that is when they would start breeding in the wild. And they have quite a few babies. On average, they might have about like 5, but they can have up to 10 babies.
So Ava wants to know if they can climb, and Chris added on, does Pippin have climbing methods?
So, like we were saying earlier, the Tenrec can climb and loves to climb. The hedgehog, not so much. The hedgehog does have a wheel because they like to climb. So they run on this wheel pretty much most of the night. It's favorite activity. Now, Pippin here, this is just an exercise bin. In his normal enclosure, we actually have a bunch of different branches going up and all kinds of things and different highs and things for him to hide in and climb on. So again, he does love to climb and want to be able to provide him that because it's a natural difficulty for him.
This is asking, do hedgehogs or Tenrecs vocalize?
Do they vocalize? So hedgehogs definitely do. Whenever they're startled, they will like hiss, kind of. I haven't really heard these Tenrecs vocalize too much. They will make little, kind of like smaller sounds to each other to communicate, but typically they're pretty quiet.
Can you let me know what else can they eat?
What else can they eat? So again, they're saying they're both insectivores, but they're also omnivores as well. They'll eat other things. The Tenrec is primarily insects. They could eat like maybe a small mouse or something. And occasionally we'll give them veggies, things like that to snack on, maybe a fruit as some enrichment. The hedgehog, also insectivore, is maybe a little bit more omnivorous than the Tenrec. So again, they eat kind of the same thing. However, he could probably have more regular like veggies inside. Right now I'm actually feeling what's called wax worms. Smelling it. But if you notice too, they both have whiskers, which can help them kind of sense their environment. He's just hanging out. He likes this corner. Maybe he's enjoying the flower there. All right. Well, if nobody else has any more questions, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. And you Dill Prickle and Pippin, our favorite little spiky animals we have down here. So you guys have a great day. Thanks again for tuning in.